Hi everyone, it's Seth, and welcome to another episode of Thrift Store Tech. Over the years, I've managed to accumulate quite a few little gambling toys and games. These are just a few of them. Many of them are just waiting their day in the sun on an episode of From the Games Basket. You can see over here we have a Riverboat Blackjack 21 machine. We have a little handheld that probably dates from the 70s or 80s. We have a slot machine that actually takes dimes. It was designed to run on slugs, but it's actually the perfect size to take dimes. And over here we have two little handheld ones, one for Blackjack 21 and one for Draw Poker. These were both made by Waco and sold by Radio Shack in the 70s and 80s, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, this slot machine was also made by Waco. But this is not what I'm here to talk to you about today. So let's jump from in here out to the garage real quick. And welcome to the garage. It's been a while since we've been out here, but this is what I'm really excited to share with y'all. So I'm just going to go down here by this power supply, turn it on, and let's come on around and take a look at what we've got. So this is an ED1993 video poker / slot machine. I picked this up on Facebook Marketplace, so not really a thrift store find, but right along the same lines. I came across a gentleman who was selling this. He had a picture of it in his garage, pretty much on this angle, super dusty, not powered on, and he was selling it for 20 bucks and just said, I just want it gone. And I messaged asking if it works, if it doesn't work, and he said he had no idea. So I went, well, what the heck? I'll try it. I'll take a chance on it for 20 bucks. And even if it doesn't work, if the board's in it, I could probably sell the board and easily recoup what I put into it. And of course, as you can see, it works. But another nice thing is that it actually came with the keys for it. So taking a look here, in here, this is where bills would usually fall. And it's interesting because I don't know the history of this machine. The board indicates that it's from 1993. The bill changer here, there's a little manual down here. These are actually the directions and the settings for that bill changer, and that was printed in 1999. But as far as I can tell, this was also originally running on quarters. So at some point, the owner upgraded it to accept dollar bills. And what's really nice about this is that I can now take a dollar bill, feed it through, open it up, and get it right back again. What's nice about this too is that when I first got it, I put in $1 and it gave me 20 credits. So it was working on the idea of playing with nickels for currency, I guess. But while I was reading through the directions on here, I came across this little chart that had the dip switch settings for the bill acceptor. Part of those dip switch settings is how many pulses it gave. So if you set it to this top one, for example, every time you put in $1, you get one pulse. So $1, presumably 1 credit, I think. Actually, I think it was on 4 pulses. So it was giving me 5 credits per pulse. So that would only be 5 credits for $1. But I found this setting at the bottom where you could set it to give 100 pulses for $1. So that's what I set it for, just to get the maximum number of credits that I could out of $1. So now when I put the $1 in, as you can see, my credits are just kicking right up here. And that gets me up to 500 credits instead of just the 20. So I'm not very big on the slot machine game, but I'll pop it over here to the poker game. Okay, so let's hit that again and get our 5 credits bet. And right now it's not recommending anything for us to hold, but I am going to hold the king and the jack of clubs, just on the off chance that it spits me out a royal flush. Which it didn't, but it did give me the jacks are better for 2 kings. Oh, no, it actually gave me the 2 pair. 2 twos, 2 kings. So that gave me a win of 10 credits, which I can choose to take, or I can try to double. So let's try to double. And this takes us to a little mini game that's basically a coin flip. You're guessing, suppose you can use this for statistical purposes. Personally, I think it's the same odds either way. But taking a look up here, you can see there's a 2, flipped over card, a 10, a flipped over card, and then we're trying to guess what this card is going to be, if it's going to be big or small. If it's ace through 6, it's small. If it's 7, it's even and nobody wins. If it's 8 through king, then it's big. So we're just going to take a guess at big. Actually, let's take a look at the cards and just see if we can take a wild guess here. So small, big, big. No, sorry, small, 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 big, big, small, big. It's equal. I don't know. I'm going to take a wild guess and say big. And I lost because it was a 6. So that means I just lost the credits that I won. Ooh. It's actually just dealt me 2 pair, and it's recommending that I hold those, which I will. And I actually wound up getting a full house with 3 3s and 2 kings. So that's a win of 50 credits, and again, I could take or double. I'm just going to take it this time, so if I hit take, it will just count those credits right in onto my total. So this has all been a pretty fun thing to play around with, but there are some things that I'd like to try to fix and take a look at. So let's take a deeper look in here. First off, I'm going to shut it down. And I'm going to take the key and open up this panel. Let's get some light down here. Down in here you can see the board and a couple of special function switches, which I'll turn that back on and show you what those do. But down here in the board you can see I actually already had to cut this out. There was a nickel cadmium battery here that was there to help maintain accounting information and scores and such, and it was leaking. And fortunately it hadn't touched anything else on the board yet, but I wanted to get it out of there before I ran the risk of it doing it, so I did cut it out. I did order a replacement nickel metal hydride battery, which is a much safer modern equivalent with far less poison in it. So I'm going to be removing those solder blobs and putting them in there. And then down here, it's a little hard to see, but these blue bays back here with white on them, it's okay, zooming in a bit helps, but these switches down here are called dip switches, and they control the settings of the game. And I found out exactly what these are all set to and found reference online for what they do, and they control different behaviors of the game. So I'm going to be messing around with some of those to change some settings to things that I would like, and I'll show you that when we get the board out onto the bench. But in the meantime, let's take a look at what these switches do. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold these 2 down. And I'm going to power on, and let's see what shows up on the screen. And what shows up on the screen is the port test, and this actually was so useful. I kind of discovered this by accident, but it's so useful because it shows me what dip switches are set to what on each bank of them. There are 7 banks altogether, and 1 means that the switch is on, 0 means that the switch is off, but these all lead to different behaviors in the game. So that's something that I'm going to be exploring around a bit. I have to actually turn off the game to get back out of this one, as far as I know. Yep. So let me just power this back on, and this time, let me press this one. And again, this one doesn't have any figures in it because the battery isn't in there to save it, so every time it powers off, it gets reset. But this tells us the statistics that are in memory for the CM, or Cherry Master main game, that's the slot machine, the poker, video poker game, the double up game, how many credits in, how many credits out, service in, service out, exchange out. And it is an ED1993, but the board is apparently from January 29th, 1996. So, interesting to know that that's going on 30 years old now, or actually over 30 years old now. And it does still all seem to be working as far as I can tell from everything. So, if I get this out of here, I can exit out. Now let's try hitting the other button on here. And here it'll tell us what our odds are, and this actually tracks with what I found in the dip switch manual, is that right now the odds of the main games are set at 70% for payout. Double up game is set at 80% for payout, which I'm looking at that like, wow, I don't feel like I win that often. Game minimum bet is 5, maximum bet is 96. Bonus minimum bet, so the amount that you would have to bet to engage any bonus features would be 8 credits. And power on to, I'm not exactly sure what that means. But again, we can exit out of that and back into the main screen for the game. And there is one other thing that I want to show you on here with this. So let me lock this up. Let's get the dollar back out again. Such a convenient way to run a casino. Put in that dollar, and it'll kick my credits up to 500. I do wish there was a little faster way to make it do that, but I can't seem to find one. And incidentally, I did find out through reading online that there is a pin on that board that you should be able to jump to ground to give credits. I'm thinking I might rewire this particular button to it so that I can tap it to add credits. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to do that yet or not, but right now this button says game over. All it does is blank out all the credits on the machine. Let's see if I can get a... See if I can... Oh, hey, this is perfect. Okay, so it dealt me 3 of a kind right off the bat, and now it gave me a full house. So let's take a look at that game again, the little high-low game. I lost. But you might have noticed there was a little blank space at the bottom. Whoa! Full house again, okay. You might have noticed there was a little... Whoops. You might have noticed there was a little blank space at the bottom of the corner there. And let's check that again. I lost again. Great. It is trying so hard to give me this full house, isn't it? And I keep blowing it. Small. Oh, for crying out loud. That's 3 games in a row, isn't it? I think so. Okay, that's 3 of a kind. Let's try that. Okay, that's a win. Now you saw a block appear there that was just green and fade away. There is a setting in the dip switches to turn that into a picture of a woman, a very pixelated anime-esque style picture of a woman. And by default, those are turned off because of where these might be placed. Something else that you can do is you can actually try to double again if you're feeling lucky. Right now I've got 36 credits instead of 18, or you can take, which I'll go ahead and take. And 512, I'm actually up from where I started. Now, the history on these, and I find it interesting because personally I live in a state where gambling has been legal for several years. So certainly by the 90s it was. But this is more of a machine that would have been placed in a state where gambling maybe wasn't technically legal. And they would kind of run these in kind of a gray legal area to where these were marketed as for amusement only. Nobody was supposed to be profiting off of them, really, in theory. But you notice I have 512 credits. Now, if I hit that game over button, it empties out all my credits. I get nothing for that. This is not connected to a hopper. It doesn't give out tickets or anything like that. But what you would theoretically do if you were playing this in a place that maybe didn't allow gambling, but kind of sort of did under the table, you would put in your credits, you would play, you'd win until, or you would win or lose or play until you were ready to cash out. Then you would call an attendant over. They would verify the amount, like say I just had 512 credits, and then they would hit the game over button, zero out the machine, and pay you out what you had won or what you had earned on the machine. So kind of an interesting little workaround for places that didn't allow gambling, but it also meant that these machines could be just about anywhere. They were pretty common in gas stations from the research that I've done, and supermarkets and so on. So it all depended on where they were, but there were also quite a few that were in bars, and I'm very thankful this one does not seem to have been in a bar because it does not reek of smoke. But the picture of the women was usually there to just draw in patrons, either with the screen on attract mode or otherwise. And it was just one of those things where they turned it off by default because they never knew where this might be placed. And if it's placed in a family-friendly environment like a hotel or an arcade or a grocery store, they don't necessarily want that showing on the screen. So that's something that I'm going to be looking at just because I'm personally interested in it. But in the meantime, let's turn this off and let's take a look at the board. Going back here down to the board, there are only 2 screws holding it in. There's one here, one here. Then you just have to undo these edge connectors and I can pull the board. So I'm going to do that and get started on replacing out that bad battery. Welcome to the bench. It's been a while. Start off with a quick overview of the board. This is the whole board. This controls the entire game. I know enough to know that they are IC chips. I don't really know much more beyond that. I just know that I need to be extremely careful with static electricity and just kind of watch myself around them. But taking a look down here, let me see if I can zoom in a bit. Down here we have the PM1, NL, PM2. I'm sure that those stand for Poker Master 1 and 2. So those would be the ROMs that hold the game data. And down here, a PM3 30. I'm not sure exactly what the 30 means, but eh. And down here, these are the dip switches that I was talking about. So you can see there are 7 banks of them. So bank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And these are all set to certain specific settings that control the game. And I was able to check what I saw on that post screen against a guide that I found online that I was able to print out. So Poker Master ED1993, dual game set 2, dip switch settings, and it does seem to match pretty much everything that's been set up on there. Just for example, that first dip switch in bank 1 was set to off, which function is freeze pair online. I'm not even entirely sure what that means. By default, it's supposed to be off and it's on right now. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, but I'm not going to mess with it because it's not a setting that I'm interested in messing with. But we'll get into those in a bit. For now, I just want to take a look down here at this point, and this is where I had to remove the battery. Actually, this is the nickel cadmium battery that was in there, and it's a 3.6 volt, 50 milliamp hour rechargeable battery. And I actually did clean it off, but you can still see some of the remnants of the corrosion that was starting to leak out of here, and I just took a pair of cutters and just cut it right out because I was concerned about additional damage to the board, which I probably didn't need to be very concerned about with the time that I had, but I didn't want to take any chances. And in the meantime, as I said, I ordered a replacement battery, and this is, instead of nickel cadmium, this is nickel metal hydride. This is 3.6 volt, 80 milliamp hours, so slightly higher than the other one, but amperage should not really make a difference as long as you've met the requirement of the old one, and it doesn't exceed it by that much. So now I just need to look at these, and I know that this end is positive, this end is negative, so I just need to match that up to the positive and negative terminals on the board, which here you can see the blobs where I cut the original one out. I wonder if I could actually fit it in without having to remove that solder, which I believe I could. I'm still going to remove it for the sake of cleanliness, but yeah, they actually left 2 holes in there, so I could actually put a fresh one in without having to do all that. But you can see this is the old one. This is where it sat, just like this. So the new one is very, very close to the old one. In fact, it's probably pretty much identical in size. But in the meantime, I just want to get this out of here. So I'm going to be using my soldering iron and my solder sucker pump. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to melt that old solder down and use the solder sucker to suck some of that liquid solder out. And then over here again on this side, same thing. Same thing. I'm afraid I'm not very elegant at doing that, but came out off camera, but you can see right there, that's just some of the solder that's been pulled out and sucked out in that pump. And let's take a closer look at that. Yeah, it definitely needs some cleaning. I am not very elegant at soldering. But let's flip it over onto the back and see if I can get the rest of that out. I want to try to get this to where it can be seen. But here are the 2 open holes. And again, just trying to clean out the old stuff for sake of thoroughness. again, let's put a little bit of flux on here. Just getting a lot of that out. Let's see how we're looking. So that one's not looking too bad. This one is looking worse, and I think part of it is because the leg is still stuck in there. So I'm going to see if I can loosen up that solder and get that leg out of there. Ah, okay. That was not fun, but I got that leg out of there from the old battery. And like I said, it's not very pretty, but it is cleaned out now, and I'll just give it a quick clean. I want to do a quick continuity test and make sure that these terminals do connect to each other, and then we can put the fresh new battery in there. So I'm going to clean that out with just a little bit of rubbing alcohol. And yeah, you can see how much gunk is coming off of there. But let's take a look. All right. You know, it's still not overly pretty, but it's looking better than it did. That's for sure. So let's get just a little more alcohol down here on the bottom side just to clean that off. So we've got those cleaned off. It's looking pretty good. Now the thing that I do have to be very careful about is connecting this to the right polarity. So I can tell that this side is our negative contact, this side is our positive contact. Oh, almost forgot. All right, so I have my meter set to continuity mode so that when the probes touch, I get that beep. So that if these two points are wired together, which they certainly should be, I'll get a beep when I touch them. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, those are all good, just as I expected them to be. So let's take our battery and let's just make sure to match up the polarity correctly. So if we look on this side of the battery, we can see our positive sign, so we know this side is positive, this side is negative, there's nothing marking it. And once again, looking at our board, we can see which side is positive, which side is negative. So I'm just going to put these in, and I actually will reuse the old holes. I held this up and realized that the labels are falling off because they're so old. Our battery is in place. It's probably not very easy to see from up there, unfortunately, but it is in place on this point and this point. So now I'm just going to add some solder to those 2 points to get that backup battery in place and installed. And yeah, I am not the best at soldering. I can get the job done and I can make it work, but it's not going to be pretty. But coming up here, now you can see that we have our joints soldered in here. Here's our new battery nicely seated on the board. Our positive side of our battery matches our positive terminal. Our negative side matches the negative terminal. So this should be all set to go when we're ready to power it back on again. It will start charging that battery and it will hold the accounting data in place for us. Now in the meantime, let's have a look at these dip switches. Now, like I showed you, that one board or that one screen on the game did show us how they were all set, and it matches up and tracks with a lot of the information that's on here. And there's just some things that I would like to change. So going through here, I circled off the things that are set and how they're set, and I highlighted the things I want to change. Which this, according to this, it's set at 90% on the double up pay rate game, but it had said 80% on the screen, so I'm a little confused on that one. I think I am going to change it to the 90% though. Just to give you an idea, this one for dip switch 2, those first 3 switches are currently on, off, off. Let's see if that tracks with bank 2. Bank 2, I may stand corrected. I may have some bad information here, because according to the screen, that should be on, off, off on bank switch 2, which is here, and it's showing them all off. Yeah, it's showing all 3 switches off. Oh, which has it set at 85% pay rate, which is exactly where I want it. But according to that, I thought the pay rate said that it was at 80%, so I might have incorrect information here. Makes me nervous about messing with it. So going through my list, most things are the way I want them. The pay rate, oh yeah, I didn't want to change that one. The pay rate here, I thought it was on 80. Apparently it is on 85 where I wanted it. Let's see. These were all good. I didn't want to change any of these. This is one I was thinking about. That one coin currently gives 5 credits, which would make sense. Putting in the $1 bill gave me 5 credits. No, it gave me 20 credits. Gave me 4 pulses at 5 credits. It gave me 20 credits. And that's set for off and on bank 3. So bank 3, switches 3 and 4. One should be off, one should be on. So let's see. Bank 3, switches 3 and 4. Sure enough, I have one off, one on. Yep. I want them both on. That will give me 1 coin equals 10 credits. So that should change what I'm playing with. I'm going to just take a simple wooden stick, switches 3 and 4 on bank 3. So here's bank 3. Here's 3 and 4, and as you can see, one is on, one is off. I want them both on, so I'm going to just move that one up to on. That should give me 1 coin, 10 credits. And further down the line on 5 and 6, 5 and 6 on that same bank. There it is. They are currently both set to off. That tracks. I want to switch 5 to on. Again, that should be getting me up to 10 credits a pulse. So there we go. Okay, that should do it for that. And then looking at my list again, bank 3, switches 7 and 8 are both off. I want them both on. So again, switch 3, 7 and 8. There's 8 on and 7 on. Those should give me the maximum amount of credits. Okay, dip switch 5. This is where our picture of the lady comes in. Switch 1, display doll on demo. They called her a doll. But switch 1 is currently off, meaning that the doll is not displayed. We want it on. So we're going to go to switch bank 5. And we're going to turn switch 1 on. That should put her on, and then there's one other one to have her on during the fruit and cherry bonus. That's switch number 6. Should currently be off, and I want it on in bank 5. So bank 5, switch 6 is off, I want it on. There we go. That's on. I'm curious about this because it says card type cards or missiles. And I'm looking at that like, what? So I'm just curious about that. So bank 6, we'll change that from off to on the first switch in bank 6. Okay. I'll probably switch that back because I don't know if I'm actually going to like it or not. But the other one is that changing the game from big small to red black, I feel like it's just going to be easier to keep track of. So that's switch 2 in bank 6 should be on instead of off. So bank 6, switch 2, on. Okay, last one is dip switch 7, the last bank. Right now it has switch 1 on, switch 2 off. Makes it the minimum bet to play is 5. I want it to be 1 credit for a minimum bet. And to do that I need both 1 and 2 off on bank 7. So I'm just going to slide that one down to off. There we go. And oh, there was one here. I'm not sure what this is. Chance bonus. It's currently off. It's supposed to be on by default, so I'm curious on to what that is. So that's switch 5. 5 I want to turn on. So let's see. Here's switch bank 7. Here's number 5. Let's move it to on. There we go. That's the chance bonus. Sound at run and open cards. Right now that is off. I'd like to be on. I'd actually like to hear the sound. So let's take a look at that. That is switch number 6, I believe. Yep, number 6, and I want it on. So going down to switch bank 7, switch 6 is off. We're going to turn it on there. And Yep, that's it. That's all that I wanted to adjust. So those switches should now have changed the game's behavior, and I'm interested to see what's going to happen when we start back up again. One last thing I'm going to do before I put it back in is I'm going to clean the edge connector contacts. They don't really look very dirty, but they can just get kind of dulled out over time, just through natural oxidation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol on a cotton swab, and I'm just going to kind of rub them down and just give them a little quick cleaning. Like I said, they're not very dirty. This machine was actually in amazing condition. It needed a good wipe down for the dust that was from the guy's garage, but otherwise it was looking good. And you can see we're getting a little bit of dirt off of there, but not much. I wasn't very worried about it. I just wanted to try to give it a quick one just for the sake of being proactive. So I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Just kind of give these a quick wipe down with the rubbing alcohol. And again, we got a little bit off there, not very much. Okay, last thing to do, I'm going to give this a few minutes to just kind of dry out to make sure that all the alcohol is dried out, and then we're going to plug it in and see what differences we see in the game. Okay, our board is reinstalled. I'm going to close this up, and we're going to turn it on and see how the game behaves differently with those changed dip switch settings. I see what they mean by missiles. I don't like it. I really don't like playing with it like that. Yeah, I'm going to change those back. I don't know why anybody would necessarily want that one. Yeah, I'm going to change that back. Actually, I'm going to change that back right away. I just don't like it. Okay, I pulled the board and I fixed that switch. So let's power it back on again. Let's see where we land this time. And incidentally, I forgot to mention, you never want to change those dip switch settings while the power's on. It could very well mess up the board, plus it's practically impossible to reach them inside that board anyway. But as you can see, we're back to regular cards right now. And I changed up that credit system, so this should give me a little more. Now remember, last time putting in $1 gave me 500 credits. So let's see what it does this time. Yep, that's what I expected. Okay, so now it gave me 1,000 credits for $1. I'm playing with fractions of a penny here. I'm not sure what this CB9 down here means, but let's try it. Oh, bet. Oh, and that reminds me, there's no more minimum bet, so. Oh, and it gave me different sound effects, too. All right, let's just see. Lose. Oh, okay, you're giving me 2 queens. Let's take it. Okay, and let's try our double up game. And now we're just guessing if it's black or red. So, how did I manage to lose that? All right, let's try it again. All right, let's try our game again. All right, I gotta hit it sooner or later. Okay, perfect. Let's try it again. Are you serious? How many times am I gonna guess red and have it be black? Oh. Okay. Try it again. There we go. Huh. But we did not get the doll. Interesting. I thought that switch was going to do it. I will have to nose around with that a little bit more. Well, either way, we now have that working on the screen. Let's go change game and go to the slot machine. There's no minimum bet. If I wanted to, I could just bet the 1. I'd only get the 1 line going across. See, I lost because I only had the 1 line going across here and didn't have a bet on this line where I would have won. So let's just bet out all the lines that say 20 credits a bet. Wait, did I? Oh, no, I won 4. Whoop-de-doo. But back to the game. And I lost again. Change game and let's end game. And let's zero out those credits again. I don't know why the doll option isn't working. I'm glad I got that credit difference in there. So that's a nice feature. So that I can put in just $1 and get 1,000 credits. So I did fix that. But now that that's paying out all of that, I should be able to hit the accounting button and get a different report this time. Okay, now that that's emptied, let's hit the accounting button and see. Okay, so Cherry Master, main game, played 61 credits, won 4 points in 4 games. Poker, played 30 credits, I won 25 credits across 6 games. The double up game, I played 29 credits, I won 10 credits, I won 1 credit. No, wait. Oh, sorry, I won 1 game and lost 4 games. And credit in was 1,000, credit out was a 919, so the owner-operator is ahead. The house always wins, right? But let's see if I can exit out of that and try this one. Okay, and now the main game is set at 70%, whereas before I believe it was at 80. Double up game is at 80. Minimum bet is 1. Bonus minimum bet is still at 8. Power on 3. I'm not sure what that means. Well, let's turn it off. Well, it has been a while, and I went through and checked out all these dip switch settings. Most of the settings that I wanted have come through, but I still cannot seem to get the image of the doll to appear, and I don't know why. The research that I did does seem to indicate that there's a possibility that the battery leaking did end up causing some damage on the board, even though I couldn't quite see it. So I'm going to have to take a closer look at that. But in the meantime, well, in the meantime I'm losing, but it's still just showing that kind of brick wall building up around the bonus screen. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but like I said, I'm going to try to take a look at the board in more detail and see if I can find any spot where the corrosion hit. It was suggested that it's possible that some of the chips that contain the graphics set for the doll character were corroded or damaged. I did pop those out and give the pins a quick clean and reseated the chips, and no luck, unfortunately. I'm just trying this on the off chance that I did fix it on the last time and just didn't get it through, but I don't think so. Of course, first I have to manage to win the game. Oh, there it is. But yep, it's just giving me that blank box. So I'm going to have to nose around on that. I also found some conflicting information on what the dip switches actually do. So there's a possibility that there's just something conflicting with it that I haven't found yet. So I'm going to take a look at all that. In the meantime, just to give you an idea, oh, it needs me to finish. In the meantime, just to give you an idea, the main game is now set at 70% payout, double up game at 80%, and right now I've had to reset the memory a couple of times, but it's been powered on 4 times. That's what this will indicate. Bonus minimum bet is at 16, minimum bet is at 1, maximum bet is at 16, which I thought that was a switch conflict causing the thing to reject the doll sprite, but that's apparently not the case, so I'm probably going to reset the max bet back to 96 credits. And over here you can see the general accounting screen. This, again, has been reset, but 2,000 credits in, 955 credits out. Double up game played 90 times, won 3 of them. Or, no wait, sorry, that's credits. 90 credits played, 30 credits won, 11 games lost, 3 games won. Poker main game played 254 credits, won 90 credits out of 40 games, and I haven't played any of the slot machine game on there just yet. So that's where we are now. Oh, and there's one other thing that I wanted to show, and I don't know how well this is going to come across on the screen, but something that can sometimes happen with old arcade boards or old machines that constantly show the same thing is called screen burn-in. And I've been fortunate because by screen burn-in, it's usually a frozen image of the cards or something showing across the bottom of the screen. But this one seems to have been taken care of pretty well and seems to have been kept on rotation through the different modes. So fortunately, I'm not seeing any screen burn-in on this, even with the smoked glass removed. And I'll show you a quick view of the back real quick before we wrap this video up. But as you can see here, this is a nice crisp CRT monitor. Looks really nice in there. Just have to slot that into there and set it back on here. There we go. It wasn't quite going in. And closing this up, and there's one last thing I want to show you while we have this open. And that's going around the back here. Oh, incidentally, something I found out, if you don't hit that game off or that game over button and you just turn it off, when you turn it back on, the credits remain. I had this off for a good 15-20 minutes and I turned it on and the credits were still there, and I was surprised. I thought they'd be lost, but I guess that's part of what the battery is doing, is holding it. But just to take a quick look around back, just to show you. Incidentally, you can tell by the way this power supply doesn't quite fit in here because this is an open gap. I believe the power supply was upgraded at some point as well, so somebody did take care of this. Going down in here, let's get the light on. So, yeah, pretty standard arcade computer power supply. Going to a monitor that's by Chunghwa, a Taiwanese company if I remember correctly. I can't quite see the date that the monitor was manufactured, but it is all surprisingly very clean in here. Just a thin layer of dust, nothing too major. I'm not going to go poking around with the CRT because nothing's broken on it and I don't want to risk breaking it. And also, if you did not know, CRTs are notorious for holding a huge amount of voltage that can give you a very bad zap if you're not careful. And it's not something I care to take the risk on. So yep, that's about it. That's the story of the video poker machine that I wound up picking up for all of 20 bucks. Pretty good find. I'm very happy with it. I just hope I can get the rest of the graphics working sometime, so look out for a follow-up on that soon. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Lose.